The glass of champagne slipped from Helena Cross's hand and shattered across the marble floor just as the cleaner whispered,
"Don't sign that contract."
For one suspended second, the entire ballroom seemed to stop breathing. Executives in tailored suits turned toward the sound. Cameras flashed near the stage. The chairman of Crosswell International stood beneath a wall of golden light, smiling as if the biggest merger in the company's history was only moments away from completion. Helena stared at the man beside her. He wore a faded gray uniform, rubber-soled shoes, and a plastic name badge that read Daniel. A mop rested in one hand. His dark hair was streaked with silver dust from the maintenance corridor, and there was a faint bruise along his jaw. No one looking at him would have guessed he was worth $12 billion. No one knew that the cleaner standing beside Helena was Adrian Cross, the billionaire founder and chief executive officer of the company hosting the glittering celebration. No one knew that beneath his uniform, hidden against his chest, was a recording that could destroy half the executive board. And no one knew that somewhere inside the building, a man had already been paid to make sure Adrian Cross never left alive. Helena's lips parted.
What did you say?
Before he could answer, a hand clamped around Adrian's shoulder.
"There you are.
Security Chief Marcus Vale said through a smile that did not reach his eyes.
You've been wandering into places cleaners don't belong."
Adrian slowly turned. Marcus's fingers tightened. From the stage, Victor Langley, Crosswell's chief operating officer, lifted a pen above the merger agreement. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor announced, "tonight we secure the future." Adrian looked at Helena again. Her face had gone pale. "Trust me," he said quietly. Then the lights went out. "Please, can I ask for a favor? Please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you heartfelt stories." 3 weeks earlier, Adrian Cross had stood alone in the private elevator leading to the top floor of the tower that carried his name. Crosswell International occupied 62 floors of steel, glass, and polished ambition in the heart of Manhattan. The company had begun with one software patent, 2 borrowed desks, and Adrian's refusal to accept failure. 15 years later, it employed more than 20,000 people across 4 continents. Business magazines called him ruthless. Investors called him brilliant. His employees mostly called him a photograph. Adrian rarely appeared without notice. He traveled through private entrances, attended meetings behind tinted glass, and allowed Victor Langley to handle the daily machinery of the company. After years of expansion, acquisitions, lawsuits, and sleepless negotiations, Adrian had begun to believe distance was necessary. That belief ended when an envelope appeared inside his locked penthouse office. There was no stamp, no name, and no record of anyone entering. Inside were photocopies of payroll reports, safety complaints, and employee termination forms. At first, Adrian assumed they were fabricated. Then he noticed the signatures. His signature, perfectly copied. One document authorized the dismissal of 73 warehouse employees after they complained about faulty equipment. Another approved unexplained consulting payments totaling $18 million. A third showed that the company's employee relief fund had been drained and transferred through 3 shell corporations. At the bottom of the pile was a handwritten sentence. "You built a kingdom, Mr. Cross. Come downstairs and see what your kings have done with it." Adrian spent 4 nights reviewing internal records. Every path led to missing files, altered reports, and senior executives who had worked beside him for years. He could have called the police. He could have hired investigators. He trusted neither option. If corruption had spread through the company, he needed to see it without warning anyone. He needed to hear what people said when they believed the owner was nowhere near them. That was how Adrian Cross disappeared. The official announcement stated that he had left for a confidential overseas negotiation. Victor Langley was given temporary operational authority. 2 days later, a new cleaner named Daniel Reed began working the evening shift. The disguise was not elaborate enough for a film, but it was effective in real life. Adrian let his beard grow unevenly, dyed sections of his hair gray, wore contact lenses that softened the striking blue eyes printed across business magazines, and added a slight stiffness to his walk. More importantly, people did not look closely at cleaners. They looked through them. On his first evening, Adrian learned more about his company in 4 hours than he had in the previous 4 years. He saw a department manager shout at a pregnant receptionist for sitting down. He watched an executive drop a coffee cup beside a waste bin, then snap his fingers at a cleaner without breaking his phone conversation. He heard 2 directors joke about employees begging for medical support while they approved a private retreat in the Caribbean. By midnight, Adrian's anger had become something colder. He had always demanded results. He had believed the company's harsh reputation came from discipline and high standards. What he witnessed was not discipline. It was cruelty protected by hierarchy. Near 1 in the morning, he was wiping fingerprints from the glass wall outside the finance department when raised voices came from a conference room. "You will correct the figures before Monday," a man said. Adrian recognized the voice immediately. Damien Holt, Vice President of Corporate Finance. A woman replied, "The figures are correct. That is the problem." Adrian moved closer, keeping his head lowered. Through the glass, he saw a young woman standing across from Damien. She wore a navy blouse, black trousers, and shoes that looked practical rather than expensive. Her brown hair had been pinned into a loose knot, though several strands had fallen around her face. A laptop rested on the table between them. Adrian had seen her name earlier in personnel files, Helena Cross. The coincidence had caught his attention. They shared a surname but no relation. She worked as a senior compliance analyst, had been promoted twice in 4 years, and had received unusually high performance reviews followed by a sudden disciplinary warning 3 months earlier. Damien leaned across the table. "You are not being asked for an opinion. You're asking me to classify executive consulting payments as regional infrastructure expenses. I am asking you to correct a coding error." "It isn't an error." Damien's face hardened. "Do you know how many people would kill for your job?" Helena closed the laptop. "Then perhaps you should give it to someone willing to lie." Adrian's hand stopped against the glass. Damien laughed softly. "You think integrity makes you untouchable? No, I think it helps me sleep. Enjoy sleeping in a smaller apartment when I have you fired." Helena lifted her chin, but Adrian noticed her fingers trembling against the laptop. She was afraid. She simply refused to let Damien enjoy it. Damien stepped closer. "Monday morning, correct the report or I will make sure you never work in finance again." He stormed from the room. The door struck Adrian's cleaning cart as it opened. Damien glared at him. "Are you deaf?" "No, sir." "Then move." Adrian pulled the cart aside. Damien walked away without recognizing the man whose company car he had used that morning. Inside the conference room, Helena remained motionless for several seconds. Then she lowered herself into a chair and pressed both hands over her face. Adrian should have continued cleaning. Instead, he knocked lightly against the open door. She looked up quickly and wiped beneath her eyes. "Sorry, is the room scheduled for cleaning?" "It can wait." Her gaze moved to his cart. "You'll probably get blamed if it does." "I'm beginning to understand that blame travels downhill in this building." A startled laugh escaped her before she could stop it. It changed her face. The tension around her eyes softened, and something warm flickered between them before she looked away. "You're new," she said. "First week. Then I should warn you, sarcasm is dangerous here. So is accounting, apparently." This time her smile lasted longer. Adrian stepped into the room and picked up an empty paper cup from the table. "Are you all right?" The question seemed to disarm her more than Damien's threats had. "I'm fine." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm terrible at saying that convincingly." "You're better than most." "Is that a compliment?" "It depends on how much you value dishonesty." She studied him. Adrian was accustomed to people becoming nervous under his attention. Helena did not. She looked at him as if trying to understand how an ordinary cleaner spoke with such quiet certainty. "What's your name?" she asked. He pointed to his badge. "Daniel." "Helena, I heard." Embarrassment crossed her face. "How much did you hear?" Enough to know your supervisor has a complicated relationship with the truth. He has a complicated relationship with anything that doesn't obey him. Adrian wiped the table slowly. Will you change the report? Helena looked toward the door. I can't, she said. My mother used to say that the first life feels like stepping over a crack. The next thing you know, you're living at the bottom of a canyon. She sounds wise. She was exhausting. Adrian smiled despite himself. Helena's expression softened. She died 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Thank you. Silence settled between them, but it was not uncomfortable. Adrian noticed a framed photograph beside her laptop. Helena stood next to an older man in a wheelchair, both wearing paper crowns at what appeared to be a hospital birthday celebration. My father, she explained when she followed his gaze. He had a stroke last year. Is he recovering? Slowly. His insurance covers therapy twice a week. He needs 5 sessions, but apparently learning to walk again is considered a luxury. Bitterness entered her voice, followed by immediate regret. Sorry, you didn't ask for my life story. No one ever tells a cleaner their life story, Adrian said. They usually wait until we leave before pretending they have one. Her eyes met his. For a moment, he forgot why he was there. He forgot the altered documents, the stolen funds, and the men he suspected of betraying him. There was only the quiet conference room, the city glowing beyond the windows, and a woman who had just risked her career rather than falsify one line of a report. You don't sound like a cleaner, she said. His pulse shifted. What does a cleaner sound like? That came out badly. It did, she winced. I'm sorry. Adrian let the silence stretch until she looked genuinely ashamed. Then he said, I used to teach. It was the cover story he had prepared. Her interest sharpened. What happened? Life changed. That sounds like the answer people give when the real one hurts. He looked at her differently then. She had seen through him with uncomfortable ease. And you ask a lot of questions, he said. I work in compliance. Suspicion is practically a job requirement. Is kindness also a requirement? No, that usually gets written up. She opened her handbag and removed half of a wrapped sandwich. Have you eaten? Adrian stared at it. In 15 years, no executive inside Crosswell had ever offered him half of anything. I'm not hungry. That wasn't convincing either. She held it toward him. Their fingers touched as he accepted it. The contact was brief, but Helena inhaled softly. Adrian felt it too, an unexpected warmth that moved through his hand and settled somewhere beneath his carefully guarded ribs. Her gaze dropped to his mouth before returning to his eyes. Neither of them spoke. Then the conference room door opened. A blonde woman in a fitted red dress stood outside, staring at them. Helena pulled her hand back. Cassandra, I thought you left. Cassandra Wynne entered slowly. She was a junior strategy manager with a famous talent for attaching herself to powerful people. Adrian had seen photographs of her at several charity events, usually standing beside Victor Langley. Her eyes moved from Helena to the sandwich in Adrian's hand. Are you having dinner with the cleaner? We were talking. I can see that. Cassandra smiled, but her expression was sharp. Damien is looking for you. He just left. He said you were being difficult again. Helena's jaw tightened. Then he found me. Cassandra lowered her voice. You need to stop challenging him. People are already saying you think you're morally superior. People meaning you. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to find out what happened so you can repeat it accurately. Cassandra's smile vanished. She turned to Adrian. You should get back to work. Adrian looked at Helena instead. Good night. Something passed between them that Cassandra immediately noticed. Good night, Daniel, Helena said. Adrian pushed his cart into the hallway. As he walked away, Cassandra's voice carried through the glass. You have no idea who you can trust in this company. Helena answered, Neither do you. Adrian took the service elevator to the basement. There, behind a locked maintenance room, was the temporary command center arranged by the only person who knew his secret. Samuel Ortiz had worked for Crosswell for 11 years. Officially, he supervised building maintenance. Unofficially, he had sent the envelope. Samuel was in his late 50s, broad-shouldered and careful, with the tired eyes of a man who had spent too long carrying dangerous knowledge. He locked the door behind Adrian. You were on the finance floor, Samuel said. I heard Damien Holt pressuring an analyst to alter payments. Helena Cross, you know her. She has been asking questions for months. That is why she was disciplined. Samuel handed Adrian a thin file. Inside were copies of Helena's internal complaints. All had been closed without investigation. Who closed them? Adrian asked. Victor's office. Adrian's expression hardened. Samuel moved to a monitor showing security footage from several service corridors. There is more. Someone accessed the executive archive tonight using your authorization code. That's impossible. I thought so too. A figure appeared on the screen wearing a hooded coat. The person entered the archive, remained inside for 6 minutes, then left carrying a document case. Can you identify them? Not from this angle. Adrian watched the recording twice. On the third viewing, he noticed the figure favoring the left leg. Marcus Vale, he said. Samuel stared at him. The security chief. He injured his knee skiing last winter. If Marcus is involved, every camera in this building is compromised, and every investigation could be watched. Samuel lowered his voice. Then you need to end this, go public, bring in federal investigators. Not until I know how far it reaches. You are risking your life. It is my company. Samuel's face tightened. That is exactly what the people stealing from it are counting on. They know your pride. Adrian looked back at Helena's file. They're planning something for Monday. What? I don't know yet. A faint sound came from outside the maintenance room. Both men froze. Samuel reached for a wrench. Adrian shut off the monitor. The door handle moved once, then again. Samuel, a voice called. Both men exchanged a glance. It was Helena. Samuel opened the door only a few inches. Ms. Cross. Helena stood in the corridor holding Adrian's plastic identification card. Daniel dropped this near the elevator. She said, I thought he might be down here. Adrian stepped from the shadows. Relief crossed her face too quickly to hide. There you are. He took the badge. Thank you. Her gaze moved past him toward the dark monitors. What are you doing in a locked room with the maintenance supervisor? Samuel answered before Adrian could. Training. At 1:30 in the morning. Very thorough training. Helena folded her arms. Adrian almost smiled. Then footsteps echoed at the far end of the corridor. Samuel's expression changed. Someone's coming. The overhead lights suddenly died. Helena reached instinctively for Adrian. His arm moved around her waist before he could think. She pressed against his chest in the darkness, one hand gripping his uniform. He felt her breath against his neck. Daniel, she whispered, I've got you. A beam from a flashlight swept across the corridor. Adrian pulled her behind a concrete pillar, keeping his body between hers and the approaching light. The footsteps came closer. Helena's face was only inches from his. Even in the darkness, he could see the fear in her eyes. Why are we hiding? She whispered. Adrian did not answer. The flashlight stopped on the floor where they had been standing. A man's voice spoke into a phone. The cleaner was here. Helena's fingers tightened against Adrian's chest. The voice continued. Find him before he discovers what happens at the gala. The footsteps retreated. For several seconds, Adrian and Helena remained pressed together in silence. Then she looked up at him. What did he mean? She asked. Adrian released her slowly. I don't know. She stepped back, searching his face. That was another lie. Before he could stop her, Helena reached beneath the collar of his uniform and pulled out the edge of the recording device hidden against his chest. Her eyes widened. Adrian caught her wrist. Neither of them moved. Who are you? She whispered. At the end of the corridor, the elevator doors opened. Marcus Vale stepped out with 2 security guards. Adrian tightened his grip on Helena's hand. Run!